Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Is my mic working? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm Jane Sue. I am the Executive Search Leader for Korn Ferry's Public Sector.
I'm Esther Colwell. I am Korn Ferry's Global Leader for the Technology Communications industry. Heard some great things today about technology, about all the exciting innovations that are out there. What Jane and I will talk a little bit about is people and the future of talent for technology functions, for the technology industry, and the leaders and what capabilities are needed to make the best of that talent. So I'll just talk, first of all, and provide a little bit of context here. You know, we've covered this, I think, a few times. The world is in a perilous place. There are floods in Europe, there's fires in California, political uncertainty out there. And what adds more to that is particularly concerning in the US, is that our digital capabilities are waning at this time. And we have some data to show that. Jane?
The World Economic Forum released a report last year, and it was ranking digital competitiveness by country going back 3 years. During that time frame, China increased or advanced significantly during that time period while the US fell behind. And a lot of that was due to our decrease in attractiveness for international talent. So the top 3 digital risers in the G20 was Saudi Arabia, France, Indonesia. China came in 4th, and we came in at the unlucky number of 13, and that's behind Russia and behind Mexico. Make no mistake about it, we are at war right now. Technology is advancing much faster than any legislation or mandate, and we need to adapt and move faster within this environment. What we need are leaders who can navigate and drive us faster in this new environment.
So CIOs, my condolences. Your job has always been tough. It just got tougher over the last little while, as I'm sure you have experienced, having to get whole workforces into, you know, remote work at home situations. But we also know other reasons why it's tougher. We expect the strategic priority of every CIO out there and every CEO out there to be around digital transformation. If it's not already, the majority will be by 2025. Some other pieces of data around the tech talent market particularly. We have seen tech jobs grow 190% over the last 2 years. Globally, this is data from kind of work with Microsoft, there's about 42 million roles right now. By 2025, that will be 4 times as many. Wages are increasing because supply is short. Attrition is also starting to ramp up within technology roles. A reason for that, of course, is money. You know, people with tech roles can demand more. Another point is around conditions. Make no mistake that the data is overwhelming. Employees do not want to go back to the office 5 days a week. And in fact, a majority do not want to go back at all. So if you want to get talent and you need to access that volume, don't make them all go back to the office. And lastly, of course, it's more responsibility, and it's career paths that they're looking for. So no surprise, yes, CIOs say they feel the increase of expectations at a much, much greater degree than ever before.
Our top government leaders across government and private sector, CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, CDOs, our top tech leaders across the board are being challenged in ways right now to show us brave new ways of thinking. It's pushing boundaries in tech, it's pushing boundaries in advanced capabilities like we've never imagined before. They're also expecting us to anticipate and respond to attacks from all sides. And traditionally, we relied on technical competence to enable impact and success. But in the face of this constant crisis, our technical competence is just not enough. And in fact, we're challenging you to think about this in a little bit of a different way. What we need are CIOs who look and act like CEOs. It requires a great deal of imagination, strategic thinking, tolerance for ambiguity. It is the fearlessness to swim upstream. What we're seeing, or what we've seen so far, is that large enterprises are not setting up our tech leaders properly. Whether it's because our tech leaders are working in the background or their job descriptions are just insufficient for the new demands, the new expectations that are being placed on our tech leaders today. And so in this environment, our tech leaders are just simply struggling to rise to the challenge. And we need them to act and behave in certain ways, like an enterprise leader within a large organization. But I will say that in this thankless position, it is not a surprise why morale is so low. You know, our tech leaders right now are under tremendous demand, never-ending demands, and in an industry in technology where the turnover rate is the highest among all industries in tech.
Yeah, so our point of view is that CIOs really need to think about themselves as enterprise leaders first and CIOs second. And part of the reason for this is some things that many of you have mentioned actually around culture, around trust. Because the reality is you can have the best ideas and the best innovations, but if the culture and trust and you and your leaders are unable to navigate that, it's going nowhere. It's going to get stopped and dead, and all that investment is wasted. So when we think about the leadership characteristics for an enterprise leader, and this applies to a CIO as much as a CFO or a CPO, and can you imagine if you were all behaving this way, this is the ability to work deep, to work broad, to harness the abilities of the whole organization and the ecosystem. It's that ability that we also talked about to both understand how to keep the lights on and operate and reinvent and transform at the same time, all the time. And enterprises that can reinvent and transform all the time are the most successful. That's also very, very well proven. So it's a very different looking CIO that's technically competent. You know, 10 years ago we talked about listening skills, some other soft skills. This is taking up to a whole different level.
So this new generation of tech leaders, as Esther said, they shape the culture of their enterprise. Their impact is significant. They manage and lead in interconnected environments. Their leadership skills are very well honed, interpersonal communication skills, but they're also surrounded by a diverse set of talented people, all different kinds of people. And they have deep capability in change. They're not followers. They have tolerance for ambiguity, and they are independent thinkers. They apply critical analysis across a broad spectrum of unique and evolving challenges. And they're ready to leave their comfort zone and ditch the old assumptions. They need to be brave in this new world. But they also need to grow beyond their expertise. CIOs who lead with deep technical expertise alone, they will be pigeonholed, and even worse, they're going to be standing in the way of progress. So more than any singular tech expertise, these leaders need to invest in their soft skills, but not in the way that you may think. So in our research, we look at the characteristics and traits of leaders that can apply to being considered kind of an enterprise leader. You know, those that can take risks, those that have a view towards the differences of others, a view towards empathy.
And we assess for this on behalf of boards or CEOs as they bring in new executives. And we do find, shockingly, that very few executives possess a lot of these enterprise skills. So many have come up through their functions and so focused on their functions that they don't have the breadth of skills needed to really help the enterprise operate effectively.
So we heard the term chief storyteller used here at the Cyber Roundtable a couple of days ago. We at Korn Ferry, we've been using a similar term, but we call it the explainer-in-chief. It's a similar concept, but it's more than that. This explainer-in-chief is really someone who operates across the entire ecosystem. The storytelling piece is critical, but in order for a large enterprise to make the right risk trade-offs, to make the right types of decisions, they really need the leadership savvy to create an environment where focus on technology is everyone's responsibility, not just an IT problem. CIOs can always hire and train people with the deep technical expertise, but we've heard many times already during this conference alone that to be an effective part of the senior leadership team, CIOs really need to be able to explain the tech strategies to broader groups of people in the different languages that large enterprises speak. So when I say multilingual, I am talking about the deep technical language, but it's also the business language, it's the financial language, it's the legal and risk language. But it's the languages in which you can get the broadest spectrum of people engaged into making this everyone's responsibility. It's about the ability to influence and create solutions that you don't control, that you don't have authority over. And working in a very similar way to CEO, CIOs need to operate across an entire enterprise because what they do every single day affects every single person within that organization. And they need to figure out how to address those attitudes, the habits, the practices that create vulnerabilities within that organization, while you're also maintaining speed for delivery.
Yes. So when we talk about these characteristics, they sound good, but also don't be under the misunderstanding that this is kind of soft skills. They're a bit of a mystery. This can be scientifically looked at. Your teams can be assessed to say, are they innovative? What proportion of them actually possess some of those skills to take risks? What proportion of them have the change agility to do that? And if they don't, what can you do to actually up-level those? Because we know, as we've mentioned before with our data, pretty soon there's not enough talent that's going to be out there, and it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be in high demand. So thinking about developing your own current and future leaders, both technically and so that they can be true leaders, is critical. Back to you.
Mm-hmm. The future CIOs will also need to improve their abilities when it comes to building partnerships. It's both within and it's also outside of their organizations. And this is key for CIOs to move out of their comfort zone and be effective in influencing and educating across a broader spectrum of people. The best tech leaders are the ones that know how to build networks that they can call upon when they need them. As we've heard from others, we've recently seen some unprecedented levels of public and private sector partnership post-pandemic. We've also heard one of the other speakers reference the increased amounts of information sharing from government post 9/11 with the private sector. There are higher ideals that we all aspire to, like patriotism and the common good. But ultimately, what we really need is much more shared skin in the game. We are already seeing examples of innovation in areas around talent at that intersect of public and private sector and nonprofit. And we need to be able to overcome this shortage of technical talent within our government communities together. It's knowing how to be a good partner within the nexus of these realms, understanding what it means to be a partner in give-to-get relationships. One example that we can offer is our partnership with Schmidt Futures. I know that many of you have heard some parts of this already, as I've heard, speaking with some of you during this conference. But we at Korn Ferry began partnering with Schmidt Futures. It's the philanthropic organization founded by Eric and Wendy Schmidt. And we are building a center for digital talent. Our mission is to help expand and enrich technical leadership in the government sector by building a network of exceptional tech leaders across public and private sectors. It's a platform for mutual exchange of information and ideas, but really what it is, it's attracting, it's identifying, attracting, recruiting, changing the minds of exceptional private sector leaders who may not have had any exposure or even interest in the government or the public sector. It's getting these folks engaged in our mission and getting them to share with us and work with us into figuring out how to solve problems together. We are working to overcome these seemingly insurmountable challenges, obstacles by doing so. And it is because of the partnership between the public, private, and nonprofit sector in which something like this can even be born.
So, you know, as we go into our weekend, I just encourage you to think about your leadership team. Do you know their skills? Do you have a plan to have enough of them? Do you have career paths that are compelling? Often you talked about purpose. It's fantastic. I don't think the private sector could ever match that level of purpose. But they also need more than that. Have you truly thought about diversity, equity, and inclusion to make sure you're tapping into the talent pools that are out there? In the private sector, I think there's a lot of recognition that many coders are self-taught, don't have a college degree, sometimes don't have a high school degree, and are starting to tap into those sources for the talent as well. So perhaps think about your teams, and then just a little self-reflection. Perhaps think about, are you the enterprise leader that you want to be? Are you in that 14% or still on your way? Anyway, great to see you all. Thank you so much.